Bonjour, c'est un plaisir de nouveau d'être ici en famille pour ainsi dire. Before we begin, would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the traditional and unceded territory of the Ganyenge-Aga. This land has long been a place of meeting and exchange between many indigenous nations. And as we reflect the next 2 days on borders, walls and the boundaries we draw, whether visible or invisible, it feels especially important to recognize that we are convening on land that are marked by histories of dispossession, negotiation, and resilience. It is a true pleasure and an honor to open this 7th conference here in Montreal, which brings obviously a very diverse community of scholars, of activists, of artists, practitioners from around the world. Over the past decade, our global landscape has changed a lot. It's been marked by transformation, geopolitical tensions, climate change, shifting migration issues, the rise of populism, modism, urbanism, Trumpism, what have you, all of which have deeply reshaped what we think of borders and walls. In this context, our conference aims to explore border fortification, not just as a process of securitization, but also in terms of de-securitization, from maybe imagining and building bridges. So over the next 2 days, we will engage with critical questions. How do technologies like artificial intelligence transform borders? Or how do walls affect not only security, but environment, health, the lives of people who cross or who do not cross? How are narratives about borders legitimized? How the very idea of border walls have become normalized? How can we learn from non-Western perspectives? Who really needs a border wall, really? And most and foremost, at what time is the cocktail? It's coming soon. In the adjacent room, you will find visual contributions, photographs, maps, artworks. Among these are maps created by refugees that we have talked to, who have arrived here, have been tracing their journey. So do take a look at that. We will have 2 full days and a cocktail tonight during the poster session, and I would like to put an emphasis on this. I think it's important that we foster a new generation of border scholars, and it is essential to support emerging scholars, and there are a few in the room. And I'm hoping that as you oldies connect with the younger ones, we will be able to help shape a new wave of scholarship in our field. I would like to extend my thanks to my partners in crime, Saddiki and Irasema Coronado and their institution, Arizona State University and the University Sidi Mohamed Ben Abdellah of Fez. Thank you very much for your support. I would like to express my gratitude to Anna Casiglia and the Association for Borderland Studies. That was very helpful too, and as well as our partners, Minds from the DND and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada, as well as those who have contributed in many ways, la Chaire Raoul-Dandurand with the people you've seen at the entrance, Louis Colrette, Daphne Louis Ventura, and Françoise Conea. Finally, I would like to thank the team Geopo. You know most of them. Daniela Béat, Laurence Brassard, Maëlys Druil, Laurence Dumais, Marie Duval, Daphne Chamberlain, Gabrielle Gagnon, Laurence Lamoureux. You've met them. If you have not, you should. I'm incredibly fortunate to benefit from their input and the group they form. It's a wonderful team. It's a privilege that I hope you will be able to share for the next 2 days. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this 7th conference. We may meet in 2 years for the 8th one. The first one was in 2009, and Sidi is here to attest, and Irasema, that we were there together more than a decade ago. I'm excited to share that the next conference will be, next time actually, we will gather again in Fez, in Morocco, for the 2nd edition of the Fez Agenda for Border Studies. We see Fez and Montreal as a continuum, a way to address the issue of borders and border studies from different perspectives. North of the United States, south of Europe. So we're looking at things in terms of collaboration and exchange. So this space today is not only for exchanging perspectives, but fostering cooperation. For those who are new in this room, I'm telling you, you will be back, because everybody comes back at one point or another. You will meet a lot of people who will tell you that it's their 2nd time, their 3rd time, their 4th time. So, definitely you will be back. Without further ado, thank you so much for being here. Keep in mind that we may want to publish something after that, or create something, let's say. Don't hesitate to share your ideas with us. We will welcome them. Sur ce, bonne conférence. Merci.
Good morning. Thank you, Élisabeth, for reminding us of how we started this academic journey, but also I want to remind you of another small symposium that took place before the first official international conference on border walls. It took place on April 1st, 2009, where a small group of scholars gathered here in this beautiful city and given the beginning of this long academic journey. That symposium was on border walls in international relations. I think it was a subject that influenced by maybe Philip Charles David, because it is from international relations. Then we continue, but in a diverse disciplines and academic traditions. So at the time, few of us could have imagined the trajectory the project would take. What started as a focused conversation soon evolved in a dynamic, multidisciplinary, and far-reaching research network, connecting scholars from across the world and from diverse academic traditions, disciplines, and political context. What makes this journey especially inspiring is the way it has consistently expanded, not just in terms of topics or participants, but also geographically moving beyond the global north to engage with new voices and perspectives from the global south. Last year marked an important milestone in that journey. We had privilege at my university of organizing first Global South edition of the Border Wars Conference, the Fez Agenda of Border Studies, hosted by Sidi Mohamed bin Abdellah University, in partnership with University of Quebec in Montreal, represented by our friend Élisabeth Vallet, and the University of Eastern Finland, represented by UC Line. The conference exceeded our expectations. It brought together researchers and scholars from more than 14 countries across the 4 continents, sparking new collaborations and opening important dialogues that crossed linguistic, regional, and academic boundaries. One of the most significant outcomes of that meeting was the publication of a book in Arabic titled Borders and Border Walls in the Arab World, Challenges of Security, Migration, and Policy, which I had the honor of co-editing with Élisabeth Vallet. This is first edited volume in Arabic dedicated to the topic, and it was recently presented during a special symposium at the Rabat International Book Fair on April 20th. Why is this important? Because while there is a substantial amount of research on border walls in North America and some parts of Europe, covering nearly every aspect of this topic, from security and politics to the cultural, economic, and even emotional dimensions. This subject has yet to receive sufficient scholarly attention in the Global South. In many regions of Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, and South Asia, research on borders and border walls is still relatively limited. We don't yet know enough about how these structures affect the lives of local communities, how they intersect with colonial legacies, or how indigenous perceptions of space and territory challenge colonial border and the nation-state itself. And when research does exist, it's often produced from the outside by scholars from the global north using frameworks that don't always reflect the lived realities on the ground. Beyond real or perceived security concerns behind the construction of modern border walls in many parts of the Global South, we must also recognize that these barriers are deeply rooted in the post-colonial state-building process, especially the arbitrary borders inherited from colonial powers. These lines often ignored realities on the ground, dividing nations, communities, and even families, leaving them scattered across multiple states. Additionally, many states that existed long before colonization were never fully restored after independence to their original form. Instead, they were diminished, fragmented, or absorbed. Colonial powers often reduced these historic entities to smaller states or annexed parts of them to entirely new countries that were drawn with a pen on a map to serve colonial security, economic, or geopolitical interest. The legacy of these divisions continues to fuel serious human tragedies across Africa and Asia to this day. The specific nature of borders in the Global South, their demarcation, and how they function today calls for deeper research from diverse academic perspectives. That's precisely why expanding the Montreal Initiative on Border Walls to include voices from the Global South is so important for advancing and enriching the field of border studies. And in that same spirit, positioning Sidi Mohamed bin Abdellah University in Fez as a regional hub for this research not only contributes to the growth of the field, but also helps build new bridges between North and South, between theory and practice, and between global patterns and local meanings. One of the reasons for expanding this initiative to the Global South is the systemic barriers, the systemic walls that many scholars from the Global South still face in fully participating in international academic life. These barriers include restrictive visa policies, high rejection rates, and limited access to research funding. In fact, several researchers who were accepted to this conference, to the 2025 Montreal Conference on Border Walls, had to withdraw due to these obstacles. If we are serious about advancing global knowledge, we must also work to dismantle the walls that exist and still exist within academia itself. In closing, I want to emphasize that the work we are doing and what we have done since 2009 is not only academic, it is political, ethical, and deeply human. It's asked us to think critically about how we build our world, who gets included or excluded, and what kind of futures we imagine across lines of divisions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good morning, bonjour, buenos dias. It's wonderful to be here. I want to remind us, or I want to share with you that many, many years ago at the first conference, Said and I were on the same panel. And after that, I said, hey, Said, you should come to a Fulbright at UTEP. And he did. And so now, Dandurand is going to be doing a Fulbright at ASU. So this is a great community to be a part of, and I'm very happy to be here. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about my work that, of course, I'm doing on the US-Mexico border, where the South meets the North. And I titled it The Architecture of Exclusion. As Said said, we need to be more inclusive, the human cost of policy. It's not a state secret that we're living in very difficult times in the United States, and it has definitely affected all of us and our research agendas for sure. So I want to talk about the impact on people in the US-Mexico border. The politics of fear is real. Many people who are legal permanent residents, who are undocumented, who have mixed status families are living in fear. There is sometimes, I feel, some desperation as to what to do because the Trump administration is crazy and says crazy things, and people are very afraid of what the future may bring. I'm concerned that among many members of our communities, including our students, there's a loss of hope. What can we possibly do? What can I do as an individual to change things, to be a part of things, to inform this administration and change things? And this loss of hope, I think, is terrible. And I'm going to share with you some of the casualties and the human suffering that this administration has caused. So I think the first thing that happened right away when this administration came into power was the cancellation of CBP-1 appointments. These are people that had an app that gave them an appointment to petition for asylum at 8 different ports of entry in the United States. People from Cuba, from Venezuela, from Honduras, from El Salvador, from Haiti, from many parts of the world had appointments. And when they turned on their phones, January 20th at noon, those appointments were canceled. And the CBP-1 basically said, you know, we're closed for business and we will see if we can help you, but we can't promise anything. So this is a picture of a woman who just learned that her CBP-1 appointment had been canceled, and many people were just in disbelief, were distraught, and were effectively stranded in Mexico. So the estimates, because we don't have hardcore data, there's about 270,000 people stranded in Mexico. In Ciudad Juarez, a city where I have done a lot of research, there's estimates that there's about 3,000. In the city of Tapachula in Chiapas, there's another 3,000. And according to some state officials in the state of Chiapas, there's between 8,000 and 10,000 displaced people. And many of them come from Venezuela, from Haiti, and Cuba. So the Mexican government has tried to change their asylum law to say that you can apply for asylum, even though the law states that you need to apply for asylum 30 days as you arrive, you have 30 days to apply. Well, many people didn't because they had CBP1 appointments, but now that those are canceled, they're saying, okay, we can extend this 30-day application process for people. And people called to increase resources for the Mexican Commission for Refugee Assistance, COMAR, because they just were overwhelmed with people trying to negotiate asylum, trying to file their petitions, or try to find a way home. And so in Chiapas right now, there are thousands of people trying to find a way to either stay in Mexico, which is one option, or to go back home to their country of origin. So there's this new challenge of reverse migration. The Mexican government has been offering very limited repatriation flights to countries of origin. Many people lack documents. Their passports are expired, or they don't have travel documents, or their transit permits are no longer valid. One of the things that people are coming to realize is that there are many families with children with different nationalities. One of the things that I've learned recently is that the migration process from Colombia, from Venezuela, from Cuba is not a monthly thing. There are people that have been moving for years. And there are families, there's one particular family that has a child that was born in Peru, in Colombia, and in Mexico. And none of them have documents. And the mother is like, okay, I need to go back to Colombia, which is where she's originally from. And they're like, we don't know how we can help you because no one has documents. Mexico has been restricting the mobility of migrants because the United States has exerted exorbitant pressure on Mexico. So you will not see the migrants leaving. Basically, the migrants are told you must stay where you are. You cannot travel within Mexico. In addition to this, because of policies in the United States, you now have a lot of people that have been in the United States for 10, 20, even 30 years who are now self-deporting. And they too need to find a way to engage and establish life in Mexico. So Mexico is now becoming a destination country rather than a transit country. And there is this idea now that many people are saying, the American dream is no more. I need to pursue the Mexican dream. So Mexico is in a really tough space. The one good thing is that if you have a child in Mexico, you can petition for legal permanent residency. It's not automatic, but it's easier to become a permanent resident. Mexico has also tried to find a way to accommodate people. There are some people who say, I want to go back to where I came from, and that's hard because of the reasons I mentioned. But there are some who say, I will not return to my country. Juarez has become a transit city to a city of refuge, and the city of Juarez, along with the Chamber of Commerce and the Office of International Migration, has launched a program to provide work permits for migrants. Because guess what? Undocumented people, asylum seekers, were being exploited by employers because they didn't have documents to work. And so they're trying to legalize their work authorization so that they can at least provide income while they try to get their asylum petitions heard. Again, Comar is really busy in these cities trying to do a lot of things. I want to say that Mexico has a very supportive solidarity towards some migrants, but there is an anti-immigrant sentiment. That anti-immigrant sentiment is palpable, I think, all over the world. And Mexico is not exempt. And there are people who say, why are you helping the Salvadorans? Why are you helping the Venezuelans? What about us? We also need help. We also need jobs. We also need housing. We also want better education. Again, Mexico has a lot of pressure from the United States, not just because of migration, but because of the drug traffic, because of the cartel violence. Trump announced that he wanted to send the U.S. military to help fight the war on drugs in Mexico. Trade is a huge issue between the U.S. and Mexico, and of course the environment. The situation right now in Tijuana, San Diego with the wastewater issue is huge because the raw sewage is coming and affecting the coast of California, and no one can go to the beach. So there are a lot of items on the bilateral agenda, but clearly the United States is pressuring Mexico to do things that they might not otherwise want to do, but in order for them to keep the United States military from invading, they're saying, okay, we need to do this. The impact on the United States is also palpable. There's 11 million undocumented people. Many people are self-deporting, especially when the Trump administration announced that there would be deportation flights to Guantanamo, to El Salvador, to Rwanda, and most recently to Libya. And people are saying, okay, I don't want to end up in El Salvador. I don't want to end up in Rwanda. I better self-deport. The Trump administration announced $1,000 incentives if you self-deport. Using the CBP One app, once you're in your country of origin, they'll send you the $1,000. So many people are self-deporting to Mexico, and these are people that have taken their U.S. citizen-born children with them, which causes a whole other situation, because if you're a U.S. citizen and you don't have dual nationality, you cannot go to school, you cannot take advantage of social services until you become a registered Mexican national. So this is causing a lot of problems with families on the border. The U.S. government, since it came into power in January, has really led to disengagement, to a lot of people withdrawing from society. We work with a school in Central Phoenix that has 1,000 students, and right now only 500 are attending. A lot of families are afraid to send their child to school. Many of them are encouraging them to go online. Many of them are not attending events. There's a parental engagement event that is held in Yuma every year. 300 people attend. This year only 110 attended. And one of the things that school officials are telling us is that parents are not answering their phone calls because they're afraid that if you say, oh, your son or daughter has a stomachache, come pick them up, that it's really a way to lure you to the school and that ICE will be there and you'll be deported. So the fear and the desperation and the hopelessness is very real. The Trump administration has also encouraged a lot of exclusionary policies. The most important one is the 14th Amendment, which is to deny birthright citizenship to children born of undocumented parents. There's promoting collaboration between the Internal Revenue Service and Customs and Border Protection to share data. And immigrants do pay taxes. It's very important people know that. And so a lot of people are not filing their taxes because they're afraid that the data will be shared with CBP. The government also stopped temporary protected status for Haitians, for Venezuelans, and for Salvadorans. On my campus and on other campuses, they revoked a lot of international student visas, which has led to a lot of concern, not just with our international students, but our international faculty who have work permits, who are working on their green card applications, and so everyone is afraid. And as Said mentioned, a lot of people are not traveling because they're afraid of what awaits them when they return to the United States. And legal permanent residents that have been in the United States for a long time with small infractions like parking tickets or jaywalking, you can be rendered deportable. And so a lot of people are very concerned with this. A lot of states have been proposing anti-immigrant legislation. Florida has lost a lot of migrant workers, a lot of farm workers, and so now they're promoting that teens can now work in the fields. And you can work up to 8 hours a day, go to school, and then go pick the crops because the crops are rotting in the fields. There's a lot of states promoting local law enforcement collaboration with federal immigration officials. A lot of changes in voting. Now you might have to present your birth certificate, your naturalization certificate, or your passport to vote in some states because they don't want undocumented people to be voting, which never has been the case. I mean, there are instances of people voting who are not eligible, but it's a very small number. Texas alone has introduced over 91 bills that are anti-immigrant, including not allowing children to go to school. So it's pretty alarming what's happening in the United States. So in closing, many challenges that we face where the North meets the South. There's a great impact on border and border cities like Tapachula, cities like Juarez, cities like Nogales. They are really challenging what to do with these folks that now are part of our community, and they're not leaving, they're staying, and that's a whole new development for Mexico. The fear, the desperation, the anxiety, and I want to share one last story that is absolutely heart-wrenching. And this is a little girl who was in school and she was bullied by her classmates about her family's immigration status and was told, you know, maybe when you go home, your parents will be deported and you'll be all alone. She committed suicide because she was so overwhelmed with the reality of the situation, and that's very tragic. So the human cost of policy is real, and this Jocelyn Rojas Carranza, this young little girl, 11 years old, she played the French horn, she liked to do gymnastics, she liked to watch movies with her families, and she committed suicide because of the bullying, because of the anti-immigrant sentiment in her school. So she passed away in February of 25. So with that, I close. Thank you.